Despite winter temperatures that drop as low as 50 degrees below 0 Celsius, Norilsk remains Russia's northernmost, well-populated city. While water is plentiful and the city's 175,000 residents have their own beer brewery, almost everything else is shipped in, and fresh produce has to come by plane.
I can't deliver cucumbers and tomatoes via the Northern Sea route as they won't survive transportation within 5 to 7 days. That's how long the logistics take.
Norilsk's economy was built in the 1930s by Gulag prison labor, and its top industry is mining for precious metals. Mining runs in families. This man's grandfather first worked in mines, then
my father came to Norilsk by the call of the Youth Communist League, and he was a builder of these mines. I'm a third-generation miner working in the same field. My son is studying to be a mining engineer, so he'll be the fourth generation.
Norilsk Nickel competes for the top spot as the world's biggest producer of nickel and palladium, and the company's chairman and largest shareholder vies for the title of Russia's richest man. The industry has made Norilsk one of Russia's top polluted cities and taken a toll on the health of locals and the environment. Norilsk Nickel, the company responsible, treated journalists to a tour of the city and their efforts to clean up. The company struggles to come clean on the issue and recently closed one plant.
The most important factor is ecology. We must improve the ecology of the city. Our plant is located nearest to the city, so that's why it is the main factor.
While physical health suffers, efforts to meet the spiritual needs of the Central Asian workforce are being expanded.
While there were 20 to 30 people back in 1998 when we opened the mosque, now there are so many.
The world's most northerly mosque has in the past struggled to attract worshippers. Many are worn down by the tough work, fluctuating economy, and the cost of living in a place like Norilsk. Daniel Scherf, VOA News, Moscow.
everyone, and this is Sandy Schoelles and Jennifer Hynes, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I do have a little bit of housekeeping here. We may be slowed down, or my internet only has 2 bars. I was on the phone with AT&T, frantic at the last 15 minutes. So everybody tell me what, if we look okay, let us know. We have a lot of stuff tonight, and we are talking about this, what's happening in the Arctic Circle in what is it? Norilsk. Did I say it right, Jennifer?
Is it Norilsk?
Norilsk. Yeah.
Norilsk.
Okay, let me make sure everybody can hear you.
I don't know.
Everybody can hear you. You are not muted. I've got you high up. What's wrong with this thing? Talk, Jen. Let me hear you. I'm all paranoid about everything tonight because of this AT&T nonsense. All right, I think we're good. How is everyone? How is everyone out there in the chat? We're waiting for people to join us. We have a good show. Oh, good. It looks great. Good. This is really helping me feel better because I was screaming at the guy that, why the hell do I only have 2 bars and I pay a fortune for this shit? And what a day. I told you, Jed, I was going to share. I bought this high test maple coffee. Oh my God, I planted pots of flowers, and I was running around the yard like, oh my Lord, maybe it's just caffeine that's the key. I don't know. But cheers, everybody. How you been,
Cheers.
Jennifer? How was your week?
I've been good. I've been really busy, been working hard at work, and very happy to be here tonight with you.
Good.
We'll have a good show here tonight. You've picked out some great articles. By the way, I got them all up in the order that you indicated, so we're all ready to go.
Perfect. Yeah, Rich Diana says the river colors are so wrong. I know. Jennifer's is a little less colorful than mine, but it's pretty gross. It's pretty disgusting. Please accept donations. Rick M. Well, Rick, you know what? I'm getting desperate enough. All right, we're not going there. We're going to sell coffee cups and T-shirts. If you want our beautiful logo, that might help. We don't want to make money. We don't want to do any of that. I don't want to do any of that. This is a labor of love to educate. So, we'll see. I don't know. Anyway, guys, let's get started. Jennifer? What would you like to, well, I thought if you want to start with the USA Today, which actually was, for USA Today, we're talking about the mainstream media guys, and the first thing I'm pulling up, Jennifer, I don't know if you see it on your phone, is the Arctic Circle, and it shows where Greenland is, where the North Pole is, and it shows the site of the spill, which is it's way above Mongolia, it's in Russia, and it's in the circle. And if you guys were privy to watch the video, it gave a pretty good background, but we're going to talk about this city, and we're going to talk about what goes on there. But Jen, if you have this pulled up, would you like to start?
I do. Sure,
right.
absolutely.
You got it.
So this is along the oil spill that has been caused by the melting permafrost up in the Arctic Circle. So the title is Russia Declares State of Emergency Over Arctic Circle Oil Spill Caused by Melting Permafrost. And the fact that it's in USA Today is pretty radical. USA Today is like kind of a vanilla sort of publication.
Yeah.
And this was a major diesel oil spill. So melting permafrost caused a fuel tank holding 21,000 tons of diesel oil to collapse in Russia's Arctic Circle, leading to a 135 square mile oil spill. This is on the scale of the Valdez, if any of you guys remember that, the Exxon Valdez, right?
It sure as hell is. Sorry.
Okay, so it says, according to, and I'm not going to attempt to read that name, the Federal Service for Supervision of Natural Resources, 6,000 tons spilled onto the ground and another 15,000 tons into the water. Oil products got into the Ambarnaya and, oh God, I'm really bad at Russian names.
That's okay. We're all bad at everything that's not.
Daldikan rivers. Anyway, got into two big rivers and almost all of their tributaries. So that's terrible. That's polluting all the rivers, you know, and all the water up there. The spill occurred in the city of Norilsk, Russia, at a power plant operated by Norilsk Timir Energy Company, subsidiary of Norilsk. Did you do this to me on purpose?
Norilsk, because they make nickel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
the town is located above. Is it true? Is that right?
Oh, yes, and palladium. Oh. They're completely polluted, as we'll learn more.
Oh, wow. The town is located above the Arctic Circle in Russia's far north. An emergency situation has been declared, the company said on its website. Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed to introduce federal-level emergency regime because of the spill after the Minister of Emergency Situations, Yevgeny suggested
Yevgeny Zinechev.
Okay, you're better at the Russian. You're better at the Russian names than I am.
I'm a Ruski background.
Greenpeace. Is that true?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Greenpeace has all. You are?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that. Greenpeace has already called the spill the first accident of such a large scale in the Arctic. So it's so sad that this happened up in the Arctic, and it happened because the permafrost is thawing out. The organization believes that damage to water bodies alone from a diesel spill in Norilsk could amount to more than $85 million in damages. A diesel fuel storage tank failed when the permafrost it was built on began to soften. Not a huge surprise. As a result of damage to the tank, fuel spilled onto the roadway and a passing car caught fire. Oh, this is so sad. The accident was caused by a sudden sinking of support posts in the basement of the storage tank. Well, you know, this is going to be happening all over the place.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yep. I mean, this is what we expected to happen. We've been talking about this for years, Sandy, and now it's all happening. The leaking diesel oil had extended as far as 7 miles from the accident site and turned long stretches of the Ambarnaya bright red. Well, that you can see on the picture that river is bright red.
Okay, which
it's really sad. You can see
this article has a lot of pictures. I'm trying to not make anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, we have the site of the spill.
You just go along.
All right.
In Russia, diesel is dyed red if it's used for heating of buildings and structures. Red diesel is usually pumped into special storage tanks and subsequently consumed as an energy source. Zinechev told Putin that the Norilsk plant had spent 2 days trying to contain the spill before alerting his ministry. So they just tried to handle it on their own for 48 hours. And then they were like, well, I guess we can't handle it. We'll go ahead and we'll bring in the ministry. The region's governor, Alexander Us, had told Putin that he became aware of the oil spill on Sunday only after alarming information appeared in the social media. Wow, he might have found out on Facebook. Who knows? According to Russian, right? Social media. Who knows what social media he was looking at?
Wow.
According to Russian media, the liquidation team had already cleaned up about 53,000 cubic feet of soil at the site of the diesel spill in Norilsk and had pumped out 201 tons of fuel. More than 130 tons were removed from the Ambarnaya River.
Yeah, that's it. Ambarnaya. Yep.
Yeah. Shock. I might have pronounced that one right. Nornickel is the world's leading producer of nickel and palladium, like you said.
Yep.
Palladium is a rare metal used to make catalytic converters. I guess it's sort of a rare earth, right? Yes. One of the company's key co-owners is Vladimir Putin, who was listed as the richest man in Russia with a fortune of $25 billion. Oh, well, might have dug into that a little bit.
Yeah.
The billionaire has lost $1.5 billion due to the consequences of the accident. So he felt it in his pocketbook, according to Forbes' real-time billionaire ranking. Oh, this is amazing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Do you want me to continue?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll do the next one.
Sure. The Investigative Committee of Russia has opened a criminal case of negligence due to untimely reporting of an accident near Norilsk, according to the agency's website. Who or what exactly the criminal case has been opened on was not specified. Russian authorities have already arrested the head of one of the units of the thermal power plant. As global warming has raised temperatures, especially in the Arctic latitudes, melting permafrost has become a major problem. In many colder areas, buildings and structures are built on permafrost, which can be as hard and had been as permanent, not anymore, as concrete. That has begun to change with warming temperatures, causing damage to buildings and changing.
Yeah. Not a bad article.
That's it for that. So,
well, for USA Today, it was not a bad article. What happened to my time? Uh-oh.
Really?
Uh-oh. Wait, I lost wait, I got to look for the next article. We have a really good one, and now I can't find it. It clicked off. Oh, my goodness. Guys.
I've got it up.
It's the New York Times one. It's the one. Here it is. Okay. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happens. Sometimes things click off when I don't mean to have them click off. Okay. I wanted to, I got it up, but it's everything because it's slow and my bars are only still at 2. It's not pulling up very fast. I have other articles up. Let me see if it'll pull up. Oh, look at this. Okay, it's pulling up. It's just the pictures. Well, guys, what we thought we would do is give you a little background on this place that the video, if you didn't see the opening video, this article is really good. It's from 2017, but what it does is it tells you about this area. And it is called The Lure of a Better Life Amid Cold and Darkness. And it was Norilsk. It's very polluted. It's really not a place we'd want to go, but blessed with a cornucopia of precious metals buried beneath a desert of snow, but so bereft of sunlight that nights in winter never end. Norilsk, 200 miles north of the Arctic Circle, is a place of brutal extremes. It is Russia's coldest and most polluted industrial city, and now it's really polluted, and its richest, at least when measured by the value of vast deposits of palladium, a rare mineral used in cell phones that sells for more than $1,000 an ounce. And it is dark. Starting about now, the sun, in December when this was written, the sun stops rising, leaving Norilsk shrouded in the perpetual night of polar winter. This year, back in 17, that blackout began in Wednesday, this was written in December 3rd, 2017, so not that long ago. Well, built on the bones. I mean, I find it fascinating. Built on the bones of slave prison
Yes.
laborers, Norilsk began as an outpost of Stalin's gulag, believe it or not. And uh, a place so harsh, according to one estimate, six of the 650,000 prisoners who were sent here between 1935 and 1956, around 250,000 died from cold, starvation, or overwork. Wow, that's
That's just
sad.
like under half, right?
It's a
That's
lot
kind of
of
crazy.
people. Yeah.
Quarter of a
But
million people died from
yeah,
cold and starvation and
yeah.
overwork. That's so sad.
Ugh. But more than 80 years after Norilsk became part of the Gulag archipelago, nobody really knows how many people labored there in penal servitude or how many died. So you know how we everybody would make the joke, especially when we were kids, about, oh, if we're going to send you to Siberia, as a punishment. Remember
We're
all
going to
that?
send you to the gulag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, this is exactly where we're talking about, guys. This is exactly where we're talking about. So, um, the Norilsk camp system, known as Norilsk, shut down in 1956 when Nikita Khrushchev began to dismantle the worst excesses of Stalinism. The legacy of repressive control, though, lives on in tight restrictions on access to the city. All foreigners are barred from visiting without a permit from Russia's Federal Security Service, the post-Soviet successor to the KGB. And see how just dark and it's just a signpost showing the distance. I don't know if you guys could see, to the closest cities.
Hmm.
It's one of the most isolated spots on earth, accessible only by plane or boat. I find it fascinating. Norilsk has prospered as the world's largest producer of palladium, but workers pay a price in the brutal cold, winter darkness, and isolation. And here's a picture of participants in a painting class. Because of the isolation and harsh climate, cultural pursuits are popular. Oh, I don't know anything about schools
I
either. We'll
have to do
see.
something, right?
Yeah. Um, I bet they do a lot of other things. Norilsk is a unique city. It was put here by force, said Alexander Karatanov, owner of a printing house in the city. It's like a survivor. If it had not been for Norilsk, there would have been another principle of life in the Arctic. You came, you worked, you froze, and you left. The residents of Norilsk have stayed, turning what until the 1930s had been an Arctic wilderness inhabited only by a scattering of indigenous peoples into an industrial city dotted with smoke belching chimneys. Did something start playing? What is that? Oh my God. Hang on a second, guys. Doug, you're watering right outside the window and getting me fucking soaked. Sorry, guys. My husband is watering the plants right outside the window and it's getting me soaked. Sorry for that. I didn't mean, but that's real life. And I'm screaming at him. All right. I mean, I'm like, what is the water coming in my freaking window here? All right. Did you guys hear that? Okay. So this
Yeah.
city, you heard the water? You heard it? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm
I
going to
heard it. I
freaking
was
kill
wondering
you.
what was going on.
Honey, I'm going to kill you. Okay. So they stayed. Norilsk. They stayed, turning what until the 1930s had been an Arctic wilderness inhabited by only a scattering of indigenous people into an industrial city dotted with smoke, belching chimneys amid crumbling Soviet-era apartment blocks and the ruins of former prison barracks. The population dropped sharply after the 1991 collapse of the Soviet Union, which sent the economy into a tailspin. It has risen again along with Russia's economic fortunes. Around 175,000 people now live year-round in Norilsk. Beyond the city, which is 1,800 miles northeast of Moscow in northern Siberia, extends an endless, mostly uninhabited wilderness. But you know who inhabits those wildernesses? Are the critters. I mean, it's not uninhabited. There are critters there. Uh, Everything else is a vast, wild land with wild nature and no people. Oh, just what I said, right? Said Vladimir Lerin, a scientist who lives in Norilsk. This is where the last wild mammoths died. When they dug the foundations of the buildings, they found the bones of the mammoths. How absolutely cool! The
Wow.
bone, yeah. The
Wow.
bones of
They
former.
probably still had stuff in their stomach, and
I
who
wonder.
knows?
Well, here's another area of research if we're really interested, because I am interested in all these areas. Anything in the Arctic is just like you. That's why we glom together in a way, because we both are so interested, in the Arctic. The bones of former prisoners
Yeah.
kept resurfacing, appearing each year. When winter finally breaks in June and melting snow carries to the surface these buried remains of the city's grim and official accounts, at least still, mostly smothered plants. And look, I'm showing the video now. These people swim. And after bathing, the woman says, "I have a feeling that I have been on a vacation for a week," said Natalia, this Karpushkina, a 42-year-old who runs the local walrus club. So look at them. They just go in the water. And look at that one wearing a bikini. Boy, isn't she some sexy thing. You know what? I guess they're just not they're not like us, I guess. I don't know, maybe in the cosmopolitan cities, but the real people up there. So did you want to take over and read some more? Or do you want me to continue this one?
Sure.
Me? Okay.
It's up to you.
Oh, you go ahead. We're at some residents.
Okay. Yep, some residents are the descendants of former slave laborers who stayed on simply because it was too hard to leave a place so remote that locals refer to the rest of Russia as the mainland. There are no roads or railway lines connecting Norilsk to parts of Russia outside the Arctic. The only way to get in and out is by plane or boat on the Arctic Ocean. That's pretty isolated. Many residents, however, came voluntarily. Why? I don't know why. Lured by the promise of relatively high salaries, okay, money talks, and steady work in the city's metallurgical industry, a sprawling complex of mines and smelters owned by Norilsk Nickel. Mm-hmm. The business is a privatized former state company that is the world's largest producer of palladium and also a major supplier of nickel, copper, and other metals. It is one of the world's biggest producers of pollution, turning an area twice the size of Rhode Island into a dead zone of lifeless tree trunks, mud, and snow. Doesn't sound nice. At one point, the company belched more sulfur dioxide a year than all of France.
Oh my God.
Well, if you know something about sulfur dioxide, it's a global dimming. It's used basically, I mean, when it's in the air, it cools, right? Sun can't get through it. That's what they, are thinking. Yeah, right?
Right.
It has taken some steps to reduce its output of toxic waste, but last year blamed for turning the Daldikan, a river that runs by the plant, into a flow of red goo. Locals call it Blood River.
Blood River.
Wow, this looks like a very tough place to live. There's a lot of pictures. Yeah.
And they're industrial
The company
apartments.
gets its products. Oh God, it's a rough place to live. The company gets its products to market through a port at Dudinka on the, oh my God, I should have read these names beforehand. Yenisei River. the largest of three great Siberian rivers that flow north into the Arctic Ocean. Now, something just to remember about these rivers that are flowing into the Arctic Ocean. As Siberia is getting hot, as we've seen, Siberia's been upwards of 80 degrees, right?
Yeah.
Those rivers get hot, and that hot river water flows right into the Arctic Ocean and melts the ice. Didinka, as well as providing Norilsk main outlet to the outside world, also offers a glimpse of the region's past. The settlement's Natural History Museum displays tents used by the four main indigenous peoples in the area. The biggest of these today are the Dolgans, a nomadic Turkic people that used to live off hunting and reindeer herding, but were themselves herded into collective farms during the Soviet era. That's so sad. Wow. There are now about 7,000 Dolgans, many of whom have given up their ancestors' shamanic beliefs in favor of Christianity.
Oh boy, they got them there
Smaller
too.
native. They got them there too.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't going to say anything.
I did.
Smaller native groups. I can offend anybody by my smaller native groups include the Etsi, of which there are only 227 left in the region. That's almost an extinct people, which is known as Taimyr. Traditional beliefs in shamanism have been steadily eroded by the Russian Orthodox Church, which has been sending priests into the area since the 19th century, and in 2000 built a new church on a bluff overlooking Dudinka Port. Our children study their native language as if it were a foreign tongue, said Svetlana Moybovna, who is a member of the,
where is it?
I can't say
Oh,
these
you did
words.
it. Moybovna.
Nanasan indigenous group.
Moybovna.
These are very hard words for me to say. Especially live, I might say.
I hear you, but you're doing great.
Many local people were persecuted for shamanism. One shaman in his dreams saw that a Russian god would defeat the shaman god and that only the Russian god would rule in Taimyr. So this is a pretty rough place to live, but the people who live there, they seem to be quite proud of being able to tolerate it.
Look at the apartments and look at all the stuff coming out of the apartments. You know, hey, they painted them green, but that's Dudinka, and that's the main transportation hub for it. I see in the picture. And can you imagine what these people are breathing? If we had like thought about it, we could have gone into the statistics. We could for another one, actually. I'm fascinated by these areas. We could go into the statistics of what people are getting sick with, what they're dying from. You know that they're dying from probably things like mesothelioma. I mean, we don't know how Russia is. Yeah. I'm sure Russia doesn't advertise lawyers on television. So,
aren't sure they do. Despite the horrendously harsh climate, choking pollution, and absence of sunlight from late November until January, many of the residents are fiercely proud of Norilsk and their own ability to survive in an environment that even the hardiest Russians living elsewhere would find intolerable. Wow. Last winter, temperatures plunged, this is 3 years ago, to minus 62 degrees Celsius, that's minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit, that's cold. And early winter this year has also been unforgiving, with temperatures in November already falling to minus 20 degrees Celsius, about 4 degrees below Fahrenheit.
Boy, that's cold. That's cold.
Yeah.
But look at the ballerinas.
Yeah.
Look at all the children that live there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I'm like fascinated with this place now. Fascinated.
Yeah.
When I clicked on YouTube, Ecosia, to look at what was, about the city, they had the big thing red, no travel. It's travel restricted because of the pandemic. They have it definitely travel restricted, but that's really cute to see those kids doing the ballet. This is a
Yeah.
really good interactive article.
Yeah.
I like it. This is a great article. So where are we? See, they
Yeah.
take most
The
of the
cold
work and
has
leisure.
the
That's
cold
right.
has spawned a booming. How about you want to take it from here?
Sure, why not? The
Or do
cold
you want
has
me to read?
spawned.
Okay.
Okay. The cold has spawned a booming booming freelance taxi business because it's too cold to walk even short distances. They charge a fixed price of 100 rubles, which is about $1.70, to go anywhere in the city. There are also buses, but it's too cold to wait outside, so passengers crowd into nearby shops to shelter until their bus arrives. But even the bitter cold is for some a source of delight, with the frigid waters of Lake Dolgai. I hope I did that right. Dolgoye, attracting swimmers who revel in the bracing experience of bathing in ice. After bathing, oh, we read this about the lady before. She has that feeling she's been on vacation for a week. So the city has a large indoor swimming pool for those less keen on going into, below. How does anybody not go into that, Jennifer, and die of shock?
I
Really.
don't know.
But this is an aerial view right
No, it
here.
seems to be a popular practice there because they all seem
Yeah.
to be going into this ice cold water.
With
So,
bikinis
yeah,
on.
maybe it's
But
good.
it could be. Look
Yeah.
at the aerial view I've pulled up. And they
No,
live in
it's
Soviet
wild.
era apartments. Wow. I bet there's not a
Yeah.
wild thing to be seen in that city. And then look, here's young people listening to a rock band at the popular Zaboy, the Face Bar, the only establishment in the city that has its own brewery. So the kids or the people that are old enough to drink can have a place to go. And let's see, a man waiting for a bus inside a grocery store. This article is fascinating. It was really good. Um, Most of the work and
Yeah.
leisure takes place indoors, particularly in the winter period of perpetual darkness. Life inside became considerably less monotonous recently, thanks to a long awaited breakthrough. After decades of serving the digital economy by providing materials needed to make cell phones and computers, Norilsk got its first reliable internet service. But even without the
Oh,
internet, it had replicated as best as it could the amenities of a normal Russian city. They have the College of the Arts, offers ballet, and they have the Norilsk Greenhouse, which is a local company. They grow cucumbers in heated shelters, while the Zaboy Bar offers revelers home brew and live music. The bar's 30-year-old manager, 33 now, Anton Polukin, who moved to Norilsk with his parents from Kazakhstan when he was 5, said that he still struggles with the climate and that whenever he travels to warmer parts of Russia on vacation, he dreads having to return to the Arctic. I really do not want to go back, and I'm ready to give anything so I don't have to fly, he said. All the same, he keeps coming back. And here's another one of
wow.
this was a great article. This is the
Look
last
at
picture.
these. Look at this woman in the snow doing her little stretches barefoot before she jumps into the ice cold lake
These are
or
what
Arctic
you
Ocean or
call.
whatever it is.
This is the hardy bunch, These are the hardy Russians. That's why that said these women and these men. These are tough people. That was a really good article. I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that.
It was.
And we have the next one it's this one's the permafrost, which I'm gonna let you take. This one is the
Okay.
one from Science Alert, and it talks about the permafrost behind this. So this is Jennifer's place.
Okay.
This is her thing.
Right. 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 So, this oil spill that happened, now they're going to do a deep dive into the permafrost.
Mm-hmm.
Russia says melting permafrost is behind the massive Arctic fuel spill. Just came out June 5th, yesterday. Wow, brand new article. An unprecedented fuel spill that has polluted huge stretches of Arctic rivers was caused by melting permafrost, Russian officials said Friday, ordering a review of infrastructure in vulnerable zones. The spill, which has colored the remote tundra waterways with bright red patches visible from space, has highlighted the danger of climate change for Russia as areas locked by permafrost for centuries thaw amid warmer temperatures. News of the cause of the accident came amid a huge cleanup effort outside the Arctic city of Norilsk, which President Vladimir Putin said should be bankrolled by metal giants Norilsk Nickel. So Putin wants Norilsk Nickel to pay for this thing.
Oh, maybe they should.
A national level state of emergency was announced after 21,000 tons of diesel fuel spilled from a reservoir that collapsed last Friday. Norilsk Nickel owns the reservoir through a subsidiary. 3 criminal probes have been launched, and Russia's Prosecutor General's office said in a statement that preliminary findings indicate sagging ground as the reason for the disaster. To prevent a similar situation on especially hazardous structures on territories prone to melting of permafrost, the Prosecutor General has ordered a comprehensive review of such objects, it said. Norilsk, one of the country's biggest industrial centers, lies above the Arctic Circle, and Norilsk Nickel has already said it suspects permafrost thaw.
This is scary.
Other factors may be at play too. The country's technical savvy watchdog told TASS news agency that since 2016, and it's interesting that article you read, Sandy, was 2017. So since that time, it has been unable to check the condition of the 35-year-old reservoir because the company said it was under repair. So they basically, for 3 years, didn't let anybody do checks because they said it's being repaired. Huh? That doesn't make much sense, does it? Sounds like a cover-up to me. The metal giant tried to contain the damage on its own for 2 days before the specialists were called in from companies and agencies across Russia and managed to stop the spill from spreading further. They probably should have called them sooner instead of waiting for 2 days. Speaking with officials at the site by video call, Putin told Norilsk Nickel chief Vladimir Putin that he expects the company to pay for a comprehensive cleanup. Well, that's going to bankrupt Norilsk Nickel probably. It's not really their fault. I mean, they're a horrendous, source of pollution, but it's not their
Not directly,
fault.
Because directly it's all of us. It's humans. It's our society and human civilization.
It's everything.
We are destroying everything, but they're going to see more and more of this, Jen. Yeah.
I know. It's necessary to carry out the compensatory measures to restore biodiversity and the environment, he said. Putin estimated the operation would cost about 10 billion rubles, 146 million US dollars, on top of any fines. We will spend whatever is needed, said Putin. We will return the ecosystem back to normal. Oh, good luck on that.
Yeah, good luck.
Russia's environmental watchdog, Svetlana Radionova, said the damage was being calculated and called the accident unprecedented in scope. Well, they ain't seen nothing yet. We're still in Arctic history, a vast Arctic state. Russia is warming 2.5 times faster than the world average. Well, of course it is, because the poles are warming much, much more quickly than the rest of the world. And since this is all in the Arctic, 2.5 times faster, that sounds about right. 65% of the country is covered by permafrost presently, I would say. And the environment ministry warned in 2018 that the melt threatens pipes and structures as well as buried toxic waste, which can seep into waterways. Do you want to continue? Northern
Sure.
regions?
Sure, I'll continue. Let me get back to where we were. All right. Northern regions have also rung the alarm, with the Eastern Arctic Yukita area for years lobbying Moscow to pass legislation protecting the permafrost. Environmentalists said the spill was the worst such accident ever in the Arctic region. Oh my God. And the second worst in modern Russian history. I want to throw up. The Ambarnaya River, which is affected by the spill, feeds into Lake Paisino, a major body of water, and the source of the Paisina River that is vitally important to the entire Timor Peninsula. Satellite images released by the European Space Agency and Russia's Roscosmos show a large spot of reddish fuel that had traveled over 20 kilometers, which is 12 miles, towards the lake from the spill site. Russia's fisheries agency and some environmentalists have said that the floating barriers erected on the river by responders are unable to stop the majority of the pollution, which can quickly dissolve or sink. The spill also polluted 180,000 square miles of land before reaching the river, regional prosecutors said. The area has been pummeled by decades of pollution from metals production and other industrial society activity in Norilsk, Russia's most polluted city. World Wildlife Fund expert Alexei Nizhidkov said, look, I lost it. What happened to it? Sorry, I was reading it.
Said local residents have long stopped fishing in the river.
He added that despite damage to permafrost, the disaster could have been avoided if the company followed rules, such as erecting a barrier around its fuel reservoir to contain spillage. So they were lazy and cheap and didn't do it. That's what they were. Lazy and cheap and didn't do it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, I mean, anything any infrastructure at all in the permafrost, it's just a matter of time before it collapses. And maybe that barrier, if they had built it, it might have been able to mitigate this, and maybe this thing wouldn't have happened, but maybe it still would have. You know, when the permafrost gives, you know, would that barrier still stand up? Who knows? You know.
I don't know. We got grateful heretics saying privatizing everything in Russia through Putin's hand sure has worked out well, huh? For him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
We've got a lot of people in the chat. Hi Basil. Basil says the 21st century is unprecedented. Yeah, of course it is. I mean, that's like, you know. Mike's with us, Mike Olinger. He said the tanks in Norilsk, they, if you zoom out, look rusty. I saw that everywhere, and he's got a link, so that's up in that chat. We do have one more article. I don't know if we want to read the whole thing, but it's about the United States, and I really don't like Mike Pompeo, but they said that despite disagreements,
we lie, we cheat, we steal Pompeo.
Yeah, there you go.
That's his middle name.
But they said despite disagreements, the United States stands ready to assist Russia to mitigate this environmental disaster. But the thing is, will they let them in? Because it's such a closed city. And they said they'll ready to help. And Pompeo wrote, you know, how everything is communicated through Twitter on Saturday. And we stand ready. And then the article goes through talking about what happened, which we've said already, and around 500 people and 70 vehicles have been engaged to clean up the area. They managed to limit the spread of oil and localize the spill up to now. Oh, come on. Well, And Vladimir said it's a federal emergency. So basically, that article was just a little blurb of crap. And then we have the next one is we're on 49 minutes. Before we go to the Psy.org, let's just look at a few comments, if you don't mind, Jen.
Yeah, sounds good.
Scott Murdo's with us, and he said they called it diesel, but it was more likely a DNAPL mixture, which is dense, non-aqueous phase liquid, so it's not likely to be mitigated effectively. That means that everything's going to be dead, right? And people are not going to be able to drink the water. And then Gazer said, who knows what bacteria and viruses await exuding from the permafrost. Jen, you could speak to that. Yeah. Besides this now.
Completely. Yeah. What kind of freaked me out in that article was like how they are seeing the bones of ancient, past prisoners and slaves coming up, not just like mammoth bones, but like prisoner bones. I mean, that place must be so haunted. It must just have such a weird vibe. You know what I mean? All that.
It's got to be. But who knows what if those bones, what I wonder, what if those old prisoners had viruses and diseases that they were buried with? Ew. Yeah. When we don't know about that. Jean's like, well, maybe we'll discover our missing links. Are sweet. And then Boiled wrote last post said, imagine the diesel stench. Oh God! And that's
probably so poisonous.
That's above and beyond what it already must stink like up there, because their regulations they don't give a shit about regulations, they don't. Right. So Jen, do you want to?
Well, go
ahead.
Yeah, I want to read this phys.org one, the warmest May on record in Siberia, 10°C hotter.
Okay, let's go for it.
Do you have that one, or do I have?
Okay.
Okay. And this, just look at the timing on this. This thing in Norilsk, that spill happened right now. And also right now, it's hotter than it's ever been, and it's melting the permafrost. These two events are linked together. Wow. Yeah, they really are.
They are.
Real time. Temperatures soared to 10 degrees Celsius above average last month in Siberia, home to much of the Earth's permafrost, as the world experienced its warmest May on record, the European Union's climate monitoring network said on Friday. Large swaths of Siberia have been unusually warm for several months, the Copernicus Climate Change Service reported. The really large anomaly starting in January, and since then, this signal has been quite persistent. The C3S, which is that Copernican organization, senior scientist Frisia Vamborg told AFP. Temperatures reached close to 10°C above 1981 to 2010 average.
It's 10 o'clock.
Remember, like 2010, that was just like 10 years ago, 1981 to 2010. So that's like a 30-year average. So temperatures reached close above 10 degrees above that average over parts of Ob, and Yenisei rivers, which have seen record early breakup of ice. The collapse of a reservoir, some 800 kilometers further north last week, leading to, this is the Norilsk spill, 21,000 tons of diesel fuel polluting a river. And near the Arctic city of Norilsk has been linked by Russian officials to melting permafrost.
I think
now they're going to get into it.
Where we are.
That's okay.
Find where we are. All right.
Globally, the Earth's average surface temperature for the 12 months to May 2020 is close to 1.3 degrees C above pre-industrial levels, the benchmark by which global warming is often measured, according to new data. 1.3 C. Really? Wow. So we're 1.3 C but I can remember just 5 years ago we were 0.8 degrees C. Now we're 1.3 degrees C.
Gosh.
That's huge.
It is.
I know. So sad. The world's falling apart. Under the 2015 Paris Agreement, nearly 200 countries have pledged to cap the rise in Earth average surface temperature to well below 2 degrees C at 1.5 if possible. Well, considering we're at 1.3 and we're escalating, I don't really think this is going to happen, unfortunately. Sad for us. The heat wave across parts of Siberia and Alaska will cause particular alarm in the regions that were engulfed by huge forest fires just last year, fueled by record heat, where Copernicus has warned that zombie blazes smoldering underground may be reigniting. Oh, that's super scary. Globally, May was 0.63 degrees C warmer than the average May from 1981 to 2010, with above average temperatures across parts of Alaska, Europe, North America, South America, Africa, and Antarctica, basically everywhere, right? Why didn't they mention Australia? Australia's warm too.
Oh, yes.
So there's a nice little graph here where we can see how the temperatures of Earth are just really taking off.
Let me see if I can find
sad.
it, because I don't think. Oh, the C3. The top of it is C3. Is that the graph? Or am I on something wrong? I think I screwed up.
It says May 2020 was warmest on record.
Yeah, well,
and it has this little graph that shows how it's really zooming along.
Yeah, I kind of lost the story. So I'm sorry, guys. There is a video, right? The scientists, that little video? You want me to play that? The 1 minute and 31 second one that scientists made an astonishing discovery on the Arctic seafloor a while back? Was that the video you wanted me to play?
Oh, you're reading a different article.
Oh, I'm in the other article.
You're reading a different article.
All right, wait.
That's why you can't see me.
I didn't put up the article.
Arctic infrastructure at risk. Some regions in Europe, from Balkans to Scandinavia, saw cooler temperatures than average in May, as did Australia, Southern Asia, and the eastern United States. Well, a lot of that has to do with kind of the split of the Arctic vortex and the polar temperatures coming down here while the Arctic roasts. Yeah, as I always say, if it's down here, it's not up there. Overall, global temperatures have risen more than 1 degree Celsius since the mid-19th century levels, driven mostly by burning fossil fuels. The last 5 years have been the hottest on record, as have been the last decade. So, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Well, it's only a couple more paragraphs, but yeah. Okay. In the Arctic as a whole, average temperatures have risen by more than 2 degrees Celsius so the Arctic is 2 degrees C above the average since the mid-19th century, twice the global average. Everything's happening faster in the Arctic and in Antarctica as well. The softening of once solid permafrost, which stretches across Siberia, Alaska, and northern Canada, has upended indigenous communities and threatens industrial infrastructure, especially in Russia. Widespread permafrost thaw is projected for this century. No kidding. The UN Climate Science Panel, the IPCC, yay IPCC, said in a landmark report last year on the world's cryosphere and frozen zones, the majority of Arctic infrastructure is located in regions where permafrost thaw is projected to intensify by mid-century. A warming Arctic has also accelerated melting in Greenland's kilometer-thick ice sheet, resulting in a net loss of 600 billion tons of ice mass for the year. That's right, guys. 600 billion tons of ice melted off of Greenland last year, accounting for about 40% of the total sea level rise in 2019. That percentage is only going to go up because Greenland is really starting to take off right now as far as ice melt goes. The permafrost in Russian and Canadian forests contains as much as 1.5 trillion tons of carbon dioxide. Oh yeah, around 40 times the current annual emissions. I mean, it's daunting. The United Nations said last year, it's really daunting, said that man-made greenhouse gas emissions need to tumble about 7.6% annually. That's not going to happen over the next decade to cap global warming at 1.5 C. They're dreaming, or they're smoking drugs. One of the two. Seriously, current pledges to cut emissions put Earth on a path of several degrees warming by the end of the century. That's true. So yeah, Earth is getting hot and it's going to get hotter. And the infrastructure in the Arctic is just going to cave. It's just going to cave. All of it.
All of it. A lot of people that are chatting. Yeah, it is, Jennifer. I don't think you're wrong. Billy Boy said a blue ocean event in the Arctic could abruptly change global weather patterns with the likes we haven't seen. And guys, I'm sorry about the lousy internet quality. AT&T is screwing me up again. I only have 2 bars, and it's just so sad. Sorry, we look like we're on an old 286 in 1992. And boiled rope lamppost. Greenland is huge, usually shown shrunken on maps. And Rick said, "Can you imagine if Siberia's head wave were over Greenland, maybe next year?"
He meant to say heat wave.
Heat wave. Oh yeah, heat wave, head wave.
Yeah.
Hi, Basil.
Well,
Basil says we still have Greenland.
Yeah, that's probably going to happen. I mean, you know, there are heat domes that just settle right over Greenland during this summer, and it just like 100% of the ice on the Greenland ice cap at that time experiences melting, and it'll lubricate that ice sheet. That ice sheet's becoming like Swiss cheese. It's just got lots of little holes and moulins, and it's got lakes inside of it, and it's got whole bunches of water that's lubricating the entire ice sheet. And that whole thing, you know, parts of it could come off, right? Could slip off. And I bet that that'll happen at some point. And it's also screwing up the ocean currents. You know, think of it, all that cold ice water is just like stopping the Gulf Stream. You know, the Gulf Stream is getting like, and the AMOC too, it's getting slower and slower. And, you know,
the ocean current,
that's
like
because
it's she just said, remember the Atlantic Ocean current?
So there are a lot of really bad things.
Gosser says, Jennifer, most people,
a lot of really bad things
most people, Jennifer Gosser says, would hate to think what you know, but will still go on polluting. Yeah. Wow. Well, guys, we've been an hour.
It's rough. It's really depressing.
It is. I'm really sick. It's like
an hour.
It's like the Exxon Valdez of Russia now, and it's horrible. But listen, Jennifer, thanks for doing this. This was a really good educational piece, man. We hope you got something out of this. And should I play the video at the end again, like I usually do? It's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. It'll just add 5 minutes to the end. And I want to just say, Billy Boy says, Antarctic ice shelves are on the verge of collapse. Mm-hmm. And Gene, if it comes to complete stop, the next ice age starts. That's if the AMOC stopped? I don't know. We have had stuff.
I understand what she's saying, but I think there's just too much heat in the system. I think we're skipping our ice age this time. Even if the AMOC stops and the Gulf Stream stops, yes, England will get colder. Europe will probably get colder, but there's so much heat being pumped into the system.
Yeah.
There's not going to be an ice age. That's my opinion.
Wow. All right, well, I'm going to close up all the stuff on there, and I want to thank you so much, Jennifer, for such a wonderful Saturday evening conversation on. We're going to keep up with this issue and see what the cleanup entails, and we'll get stuff up on the Facebook page about this. And thank you, everyone, for coming. Jean, love you. Kim, love you. Kent says thanks, Jennifer. And I'll end with Kim, love
Thanks,
and
Kim.
light, family. Love and light. We'll play you the video. We love you all. We have one life to live here, and it's not a soap opera. Nighty-night.
Despite winter temperatures that drop as low as 50 degrees below 0 Celsius, Norilsk remains Russia's northernmost well-populated city. While water is plentiful and the city's 175,000 residents have their own beer brewery, almost everything else is shipped in, and fresh produce has to come by plane.
I can't deliver cucumbers and tomatoes via the Northern Sea route as they won't survive transportation within 5 to 7 days. That's how long the logistics take.
Norilsk's economy was built in the 1930s by Gulag prison labor, and its top industry is mining for precious metals. Mining runs in families. This man's grandfather first worked in mines, then...
My father came to Norilsk by the call of the Youth Communist League, and he was a builder of these mines. I'm a third-generation miner working in the same field. My son is studying to be a mining engineer, so he'll be the fourth generation.
Norilsk Nickel competes for the top spot as the world's biggest producer of nickel and palladium, and the company's chairman and largest shareholder vies for the title of Russia's richest man. The industry has made Norilsk one of Russia's top polluted cities and taken a toll on the health of locals and the environment. Norilsk Nickel, the company responsible, treated journalists to a tour of the city and their efforts to clean up. The company struggles to come clean on the issue and recently closed one plant.
The most important factor is ecology. We must improve the ecology of the city. Our plant is located nearest to the city, so that's why it is the main factor.
While physical health suffers, efforts to meet the spiritual needs of the Central Asian workforce are being expanded.
While there were 20 to 30 people back in 1998 when we opened the mosque, now there's so many.
The world's most northerly mosque has in the past struggled to attract worshippers. Many are worn down by the tough work, fluctuating economy, and the cost of living in a place like Norilsk. Daniel Scherf, VOA News, Moscow.